So today we're going to be working on the second folding bike that we got from our neighbor to work on. It's the same exact thing as what we did previously. It's just this one's a little bit dirtier. I don't know if you can see it. There's some cobwebs here. This one was neglected a bit more than the previous one. Has a lot of rust on it. The chain guard up here fell off, if that's what this is called. The other side of this is missing. You can see the seat post, nice and rusty, and then the chain, see it here, this link is stuck. And then the bolt there, and the nut, on the axle. So it's pretty messed up. So we're going to strip it down, run all the parts that are salvageable into the ultrasonic cleaner, and then we'll put a new chain and then probably a couple new cables. The thing we want to do is get this chain off. Now, we're not going to reuse it. I will clean it though. I make some different crafts and stuff with it, but this does not have a master link, so we're going to have to break one of the links here. So I'm just going to take the chain breaker, put it into a random link here. I'm just going to push it all the way through. It's going to drive that rivet out. Then once it's all the way through, just undo it. Chain's going to fall out here. And then there's a little piece, which is the rivet. Try and show you here. Make sure you clear that out of the end, because if you don't, next time you go to use this, you might be driving another rivet into that rivet, and you'll drive yourself crazy. So pull this off here, get you a better look. This link's all messed up. The rest of the chain doesn't feel horrible, but you know, for 10 bucks, just replace it. With the chain out, now what we can do is take the rear wheel off. I've already disconnected the cable from the brake there, so the noodle and everything's off. If you don't have a bone wrench like this, I call it a bone wrench. These are typically 15 millimeters. Some of the older sizes are different. And then this, just because it has this weird kickstand on the back, a little more awkward to get off. So just loosen everything, make sure your brake pads are clear, derailleurs out of the way, give it a slight nudge forward, and there goes the kickstand. Show you here. So it goes on the back, onto the back nut there, and then this swings down. So it's just kind of awkward because it all has to sit together. With the wheel off, I could show you, try and get you some good light here. It's rusty. Not horrible, it's just surface rust. I think this side's a little worse, you can tell on the nut there. But overall, the axle's moving nice and freely. The freewheel, though, is a little gummed up. So we'll take this all the way off. We'll run it through the ultrasonic cleaner. We'll rebuild it like we have in the other videos. But try and see if I could give you a spin test here too. Pretty straight. It's moving freely. So last mechanic who worked on it, me, did a good job. So even though it was neglected outside for a little bit, bike's not in bad shape. I've shown this previously, but I just want to do it again in case this is your first time seeing it. To get the freewheel off, you need a freewheel remover, which typically look like this. There's different splines that intermesh inside with the common freewheels. There's a lot of different ones on the market. This is the one I found is actually just the most general. I do have a few others that, for the occasion, they don't fit. I have them available. So this just slides in. Take your wrench. Try to get a long one if you can, or a cheater bar if you really need to. Put it in, get it nice and snug. Make sure you're engaged, and I usually hold the top of the wheel, push down, and then just get it to start rotating. Sometimes I can get really stuck. I don't know if you can see it here. Try and bring it up to you. I don't know if you'll be able to or not. There's still some grease there on the threads. Again, the last mechanic that worked on it, me, greased it so that this wouldn't be that hard to take off. If it's really hard to take off, it's because it's starting to seize together the metals. So you want to put grease on the threads when you put the freewheel back on, or a new freewheel, just so that you don't struggle to take it off later. All right, now we could concentrate on taking off the rest of the components. So I'm going to disconnect the cable from the rear derailleur here, and then we'll take off the brake arms on both the back and the front. So the pinch bolt here is a 9mm. This is typically a 9mm where it attaches here to the frame. If you have a derailleur hanger, it's going to be some sort of like a hex key or some other size, depending on what it is. But I'm going to get that disconnected here. And I believe the cable is still working the way it needs to, which means we're not going to replace it unnecessarily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew the barrel adjuster here, because that's going to allow me to pull the cable out even with the crimp end on it, so that we don't have to cut it. So I'm just going to move it here out of the way. And then this is also a 9mm. I think I already said that. We'll take it off here. It's an old tourney. It's got this like red wheel on it. I don't know if they make them like this anymore, but it's pretty dusty. I don't know if you could really see in there. I'm blocking the light. The spring's got a little bit of rust on it, but it's still moving back and forth pretty freely, so I'm not worried about this derailleur's integrity. It's just dirty, so we'll clean it. Probably take the jockey wheels off, put some new grease in there on the bushings. Probably back these out if I can, just to re-lube them. I mean, they might be seized in there at this point, but yeah, so we'll do that. Switch here. Going to take off the pinch bolt here. Probably blocking your view. Sorry. Okay, take that. So that's a 5mm. Try and get it pretty loose. And then after a certain point, you could just start spinning it. Now I want to take these off because number one, the brake arms are dirty. But number two, especially with this style of V-brake, I like to clean the posts that this pivots on, so that we can get it to move freely when we reinstall it. So we'll, depending on how bad it is, if it's even bad, because these are moving, we'll clean the posts and then re-lubricate them so that it moves really nicely. It's a little stuck on here, so usually just move it around a little bit and then gingerly pull up, and there we go. So you can see the post, still remnants of some of the grease from the last time I did this on there, which is great, but might as well just do it while we're here. So I think I touched this while we were there. There we go. So pull it off. I must say, even though this is probably one of the most common brakes that you're going to see, especially on the lower to mid-tier bikes, I'm not a fan. I'd much rather have the road bike type caliper, even disc, quite honestly. These just seem to be a pain. And the spring will get all messed up or something else. There we go. Take that post off. So we'll do the same thing to the front, and then we'll show the parts before they go into the ultrasonic cleaner, and we'll keep going. All right, so I pulled off the remainder of the brake arms, the front two. I want to show you. You can see there's some light dust on there, some rust in some of these other spots, but particularly here, this is the arm that holds the noodle as it goes to the other side. And this one wasn't as bad, but this one's pretty bad. So we're gonna put all the parts in, try and show you here. So we have the freewheel, we have that chain, which I'll use for other purposes, and then all the brake arms. And then we will run it through. I'll show you here. It's basically just hot water and a little bit of car wash soap. Typically it's blue, but they didn't have the one I usually use, so it's a different style. It's an orange one, but okay. So I'm going to put them in and turn it on. Might get a little loud here, but I'll show you what the ultrasonic cleaner does as I turn it on. Kind of hard to see. You can kind of see it right there on top of the freewheel. Starting to break up. There you go. Starting to break up the dirt and grime. And I like to do it there first before using the evaporust because the evaporust is more expensive. And I want to get it all cleaned up first. So wanted to also show while that's going, this is still moving nice and freely, doesn't feel crunchy or like anything's hitting. So we're not going to take that apart. We'll just let the parts go through the ultrasonic cleaner, and then we will put on a new chain and reinstall everything. All right, so the cycle is done. And pull these out, turn this off, show you the water. It's really murky. Now the parts, remember this is just the soap and the hot water in the ultrasonic cleaner. Still a lot of rust, but now a lot of that surface grime is removed and it won't transfer into the evaporust. The evaporust, a jug that's this size, pick it up and show you here. I think this is like $22, $25 on Amazon. I don't know if you can get it cheaper, but it's very expensive. And you can keep reusing it, but the dirtier it gets, the less longevity you get out of it. So I like to do like a pre-cycle wash just to get all this stuff off of it. And then the evaporust will work its magic. So take all this out. I'm going to empty this. We'll put the evaporust in, and then you'll really see a before and after difference. All right, so I've cleaned out the basin, and I'm going to pour the evaporust in. And it's this light color when it's brand new. I've actually used this a few times already, but I make sure I thoroughly clean the parts as best I can before I put them in. Let's fill it up here. And I get more use out of it that way. So you can see, try and show you in the light better, at least the freewheel. Still a little grungy. And then the worst one, this will probably be another good benchmark for us, is this one here. So we're gonna leave it in, and quite honestly, you don't have to leave it that long, like half a cycle. I'm trying to do this here. Get all this settled in there. You'll notice I'm not wearing gloves. You should always wear gloves when working with chemicals, but this stuff is pretty inert from what I've read online. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. So I'm gonna leave it soaking. I will plug this back in and turn it on. No need to heat it. And get the time set, apparently. 15 minutes should be okay. So we'll come back in 15 minutes. Right, so it's been more than 15 minutes. I set it for 15 and then I had to go run an errand, and yeah. So it's been more than 15, just full disclosure. So this was our benchmark. You can see, it looks brand new. Same thing with the rest of these. And pull out the freewheel here. Looks pretty good. The smaller cogs here for the higher gears, they look a little dark. I don't know if that's just the way they're supposed to be or not, but you can see it looks really good. And then you pull out the chain. Remember, I'm not going to reuse this chain other than for some crafts and stuff that I do with it, but looks pretty good overall. Oh, here they are. These are the lock nuts. One of them was basically orange because it had rusted out. But it looks pretty good. So I'm not going to be able to wrap up the bike today, but we'll come back when I'm ready to start putting it back together, but looks pretty good.